Speaking skills, speaking to be understood. Today, I'm going to discuss a very important subject concerning speaking. After developing your listening skills, you will feel your conversation become richer and more effective right away. Now it's time to take a look at how you speak so that you can make it easier for people to listen to you and understand you. There is a big difference between speaking and making yourself understood. No doubt you experience this from time to time as you go about your life and your work, your school, your university, whatever. Haven't you left the conversation wondering what just happened or a meeting thinking what was her point? People are always speaking, but it doesn't mean that they are always getting their point across. Excuse me. How about you? Do you find that you have to repeat yourself to your colleagues because of frequent question about your goals or procedures? When you talk to people, do their faces show understanding or confusion? Perhaps they need to develop their listening skills, yes, but we all need to take responsibility for successful communication. You must assume your part. You don't just need to sound good, you need to make your message clear. This is very important. Anything you can do to make yourself easier to understand will make your life easier and eliminate the tension that goes hand in hand with misunderstanding. Clarity in your message. The first step in making your message clear is to make sure that you yourself understand it. The most effective and the most professional way to get your point across is to get it straight in your own mind before you express it to others. Clarifying your message, in fact, can take so much more time than reflecting on it before you speak. It's perfectly appropriate to lean on friends to help you clarify what's important to you or what's really bothering you. However, it is not as appropriate to expect colleagues or clients to be so interested and so understanding. So it's always best to get my message straight in my own mind before trying to communicate it to others. It's a very important rule. After that, you must organize your message. A lot of people think hard about organizing their message. They don't ask themselves things like, what shall I start with? Do I need to ask any question before I offer my thoughts? How will I link my two proposals so they will be clear? Of those who do think about it, many make their structural choice based on what they want to say. We can be much more effective, however, when we also consider our listener and how best they will hear what we want to say. This is as true for a conversation of the coffee machine as it is in a board meeting. Informal conversation rules. I will give you an example to make myself clear. For example, if you are working with in an office with someone who is close to you and is a friend, maybe he like to listen to the radio or music or any kind of voice which make you feel uncomfortable and distracted. So can you imagine what will we do to solve this problem which bother you, which distracted you? How will you deal with this problem? If you said directly, please stop this, turn off this radio directly, you will commit a big mistake. The danger is it will sound like your main goal is to express your irritation rather than to find a solution. This is very dangerous. If you decide to not interrupt your friend or your colleagues when he is working, and Join him during the break to take a cup of coffee. So it will be easy to make a very friendly and close conversation. In an indirect way, you can ask him how it's going today, and during the conversation, indirectly, you can express your feeling and your problem to search for a solution. Um, you can tell him, today I have a problem. I am one of those people who are very sensitive to noise. So I find the sound of your radio really distracting, and I want to find a solution that will suit both of us. If he's so polite, he will tell you that, but I turned it down. I thought it helped. But you will express that I hoped it would, but it didn't. So let's think of something else. So you're developing your conversation, trying to reach a solution in a very kind way. Uh, maybe he will ask you then any ideas, so you can propose. I have got two. Actually, one would be for you to wear earphones to listen to the music. Then he will ask, and what about the other solution? One of us could move to a different part of the office. So it seems a little dramatic, uh, but you may express some sympathy, some feeling, some emotion, saying that to me, to me too. I like working with you, near of you, so we can talk. What do you think about earphones here? You will stress the solution number one. He will answer, I could try. So, uh, worth a try. He will bring his earphones to help you, and you will thank him so much for that. So it is not too complicated. It's easy. So let's think about what you have done. How did you organize your thoughts to reach your goals? You didn't come right out with your message. You make it in a form of question, so it's not an order. You try to express to him that you are searching for a solution. You are not criticizing him, but you want to make a deal with him. You offer to help, and this may have laid the groundwork for him to be helpful in return. You choose the right moment. You decide to wait for a better moment. So it's better he can now think in a very rational way. So here you try to be very kind. You choose to listen first, then talk, so that you know what you are dealing with in the moment. You give your colleague a choice of solution to consider, so making him feel free that he had a bit of control over the matter, over the situation. So can you see that part of the success of this structure? It shows that you cared. But take care, just because you have worked hard on communicating well doesn't mean that a conversation will necessarily go the way you hoped it will. So it doesn't, you mustn't be depressed if you failed. You tried. This is very good. You cannot control how other people react, but we can quite easily increase our chances that the conversation will go well by preparing for it in advance. If it doesn't go well, at least you know that you gave it your best shot. During formal conversation or situation, in a more formal setting, not organizing your communication can spell even bigger disasters than some bad feelings between a few colleagues. When you ramble in meetings, you waste people's time, and the same goes for when you are dull and monotonous. Speaking too simply, imagining that everyone knows what you mean, can also be a big mistake and a big problem. People of this tendencies are likely to lead your colleagues or clients to make some negative decision about their desire to work closely with you in the future, saying that he is saying blah blah blah. It will always pay you back in spades to reflect not only on your message but also on who your listeners are. Thinking about your audience will help you decide how to introduce your message and how to link your main points to their point of view. And I will give you now an example. Imagine you have to motivate your team to improve sales figures. You have been pushing them, but nothing seems to have changed. You can see they are working hard, but that they don't feel hopeful. So, your basic message is that they have got to work in a new way to solve this situation or this problem. Are you simply going to get them together and say, okay, the way you work isn't successful, you have got to try a new way? Hurry up and do it. I hope you cannot use this strategy. Even in fact, some people choose to communicate in this way. You must first think about it. You know they are working hard, but their effort isn't an issue. It's the approach that is unsuccessful. So they haven't thought of a new one. So it will take some brainstorming to come up with a strategy you can trust. Do people embrace change right away, even if what they are doing doesn't work? Not usually. So, it will make sense for you to lead up to your message with language that will make your team feel encouraged rather than criticize it. You might saying, for example, it's tough out there, isn't it? Uh, it's getting more and more competitive, and in this time, have fewer resources than usual. I can see you are all working very hard to make the numbers, and I appreciate that so much. Sales aren't improving, however, and we are all going to be discouraged and unmotivated soon if we aren't already. I'd like to suggest that we take some time, perhaps half a day, to push the day to day requirement of work aside and share our experiences and ideas. I'd like our goals to be a sense of clarity on what we're working on and what isn't, as well as the development of a strategy for eliminating wasting time and energy. This is very important. You didn't start with it's not working, but you started with empathy. As we said before, that empathy is the hallmark of a good listener. It's also a sure sign of a good speaker. Put yourself in your listener's shoes. Consider their point of view, and you will be able to structure your message in a win-win way or win-win situation. So, the golden rule is take care of giving clarity such a high priority that you omit all emotions from your way of speaking or the way you speak. You must, after that, you must choose your words with care. In the beginning was the word, and the word was easy to misunderstood. So, after considering who you are communication partners and choosing your language which suits them, it's obviously very important to avoid jargon that your listener is unfamiliar with unless you intend to teach it to them during the conversation. There are also quite a few words we all use but don't realize how much it damages our relationship. So, for example, always. Always and never are two words that you should always try never to use, because sometimes always can easily be perceived as an attack on the listener. When you consider that you are really trying to improve the situation by having this conversation in the first place, It's much better to choose the softer approach, looking for a win-win solution. Never. Never is similar to always. Saying to someone you never come to work on time, for example, will never be as effective as taking the tardy employee aside and saying something like, I have observed you have not been getting to work on time quite a lot recently. Are you having trouble getting out of the house in the morning, for example? So they won't feel attacked and you can take the conversation from them. You can develop the conversation. Number 3, we have should, always, never, and should. The word should too easily indicates criticism and disapproval. Again, when used with standard operating procedures, it's no problem. You are not in danger when you say you should always replace the paper in the copy machine if it runs out when you are using it. However, when you say you should spend more time proofreading your work, it comes across as quite harsh unless it is your answer to the question, what should I do? Even when people ask us what they should do, it's still a nice approach to avoid giving them a concrete answer and instead to tell them what they might try or what you would like to propose, because in the end, you probably don't know what's right for them. Give them your ideas, but don't lay down the law. When we use also should in the past tense, it can be very unhelpful as well. And I give you an example. If you come into a meeting late after a rain shower and your boss said you should have carried an umbrella with you, how does it feel? You have already come to that conclusion yourself, haven't you? You have already feel embarrassed. No such comments are necessary. It would be much more helpful to focus on the moment rather than the past. It would be lovely if the boss said, would you like to take a moment to dry off before we start? Or shall we see if anyone had a spare jacket in the office? Anything we can do to offer tangible help to someone rather than merely point out the obvious will lead to greater trust and appreciation all around. And this is very important. After all, we are human, we have emotions. But the word but can be seen as negative word. It can be seen as eraser. It erases everything positive that come before it. The listener then will focus on the negative. Let's take an example. This girl is very pretty, but she's very naive. Or this girl is very pretty and she's very naive also or as well. You can immediately see how positive the second sentence sounds and how there is no change in the information, only the change in the attitude. We are not saying you must always avoid using but. Just take care of its negative implication and consequences and to consider if we can choose another alternative words more suitable. Avoid also weak words like maybe, perhaps. These are weak or wimpy words. They don't imply any sense of commitment, only uncertainty. So avoid using words like this because they weaken your message. Unnecessary phrases, often known as trigger phrases. They are unnecessary as they add no real meaning to your message. They are the sort of phrases that turn off your listener as soon as they hear them, so they don't even want to stick around for the actual message. Here are some trigger phrases. Examples. First, you know what I mean? I will interrupt it this way. Are you telling me you are not sure if you have explained yourself very well? Phrase number 2, to be quite honest with you, meaning that were you being dishonest before that? I will translate it this way. I will understand it this way. Number 3, please don't take this personally. Here I will decode it this way. So you are about to offend me? Yes. Another example. Now, don't take this the wrong way. So it means I am surely going to take it in the wrong way. After that, we should avoid demanding phrases like you have to, you must, you'd better, or else are very demanding and they make people feel like they have no choice. Also, demeaning words like stupid, idiot, jerk. This is discouraging and unkind. They are evidence of your emotions getting the better of you. Avoid negative words like no, can't, don't, and other negative words. Shut down discussion and stir up negative feelings. It's best to avoid them where possible. Yourself, if you are using them because you are not willing to consider other points of view and find way to stay open. You want the people you are communicating with to keep listening and to keep making an effort to understand your message. When you use dangerous words and phrases, as discussed before, we run the risk of having people take a step away from our conversation, if only inside their own heads. It blocks them. So let's summarize our tips concerning well organized and effective message. Number 1, have a clear goal in mind before trying to communicate your message to others. Number 2, reflect on an appropriate structure for your message before delivering it. Number 3, plan effectively so that you reduce time wasted in misunderstanding. Number 4, choose the right moment for a conversation so that you increase the likelihood that the communication will be successful. Number 5, use empathy to build rapport and be more persuasive. Number 6, listen first, then speak. Number 7, take care of the fact that generalizations such as the use of always and never can come across as insulting. Number 8, avoid weak words and phrases to make sure your message is motivating. Sorry. Number 9, be sensitive to how different words will be received by your listeners. Finally, don't undermine relationships and turn people off by using the wrong words. Do you think now it's over? You did 50% of steps, necessary steps to be successful in your speech or in your conversation, in your work, and so on. But do you think it's enough? Speaking, it's not just what you say, but it's also how you say it. Or, as Nietzsche said before, we often refuse to accept an idea merely because the tone of voice in which it has been delivered or expressed is unsympathetic to us. So it's very important to consider some rules to be more successful and achieve your goals. So take care of vocal clarity. Even if you have clarified your message to yourself and have used empathy to develop your approach, the way you say the words can muddy your message. Both the way you pronounce the words and the tone of voice you use will have an effect. So just as using the right words is essential, it's important to make an effort to use an effective tone. Your voice, your face, and your body all have an important role to play in how you are understood. Pronunciation will be more of an issue in multicultural environment than in a homogeneous one. People working for multinational companies will be familiar with how often one can end up wondering, did he say thought or taught? Was that word pilot or pirate? Did she really say cheat or was it something else? And so on. Doc and duck. And you can listen to Indian to know how it's too difficult to understand English when they speak. I will give you 4 steps to increase your vocal clarity. Number one, slow down. We can often understand words individually that we would have trouble picking out of a rapid sentence. Step number 2, keep your language simple. Let people slowly get used to the way you speak. Step number 3, check for understanding. Ask your listener if they have understood your pronunciation and they may hesitate to tell you themselves. Step number 4, make use of written message to make sure your meaning is clear. After that, you must touch up your tone. Remember when you were a child and your parents used to say to you, don't use that tone of voice with me? Or I don't think I appreciate that tone, young man. Your tone may have very authentically represented how you were feeling, but it clearly wasn't appropriate to the situation, at least in your parents' opinion, and it wasn't helping to resolve things. Well, tone is equally important now that we are all grown up. Even more than the words being said, our tone provides listener with clues to so many things, including whether or not the speaker believes in what he or she is saying, whether or not the speaker is enthusiastic, and whether or not we need to feel threatened in the situation. Since it's a part of our survival skills to pick up these signals, most people can hear the variation in a speaker's tone when they are listening. We generally tune out both monotonous and overly noisy speakers. We generally enjoy conversing with people who vary their tone depending on what they are saying and to whom. We generally avoid as much as possible people who express a lot of irritation when they speak to us. So we must avoid the misbuster, well chosen words speak for themselves. Only if people are still listening, choose tones that listeners will want to listen to. Some people may find a monotonous voice as stupefying as everyone else does, but when it comes to their turn to speak, they may be just as monotonous. We don't want to listen to it, but we don't hear it in ourselves, or we do hear it but don't want to make the effort to change it. Likewise, we may have the normal reaction of recoiling or digging in our heels when someone speaks to us sharply, but when we are irritated and want things to change, we may speak just as sharply and bizarrely end up surprised when nothing changes. Emotional excess. Emotions very often keep people from communicating. They may be too scared or too territorial or too proud. You have probably also observed that emotion force people to communicate too quickly or too aggressively or in a very strange way. Why is it? Well, when we get emotional, we experience a surge of the chemical adrenaline in our bodies. This happens whether we are angry, delighted, or ashamed. High level of adrenaline limit our ability to think rationally. We need to calm down ourselves to lower the adrenaline before we can think. Once we can think, we can trust ourselves to talk. If you feel very emotional about something, it may be better to wait for a while before trying to put the message across. communication can often fail if you were highly charged about an issue, and equally if the person speaking to us is highly charged. Just as you can ask for a moment to calm down and get your thoughts together before continuing an emotional discussion, you can ask someone who is getting emotional to take a moment and do the same. This can be done respectively. It really pays to consider your tone of voice when you do business. It's imperative for face to face communication. Tone is even more important over the phone because a lot of energy is lost over the phone lines and you don't have the benefit of eye contact or body language. This means you need even more energy on the phone than face to face communication. Hazards. Your voice can be your greatest tool in your communication toolbox, but the way you use it can prevent you from being understood in the best possible way. Here are some hazards to watch out for. Number one, being too loud. If your volume is turned up too high, you may sound aggressive rather than assertive. This will come across as overpowering and perhaps intimidating. Number two, being too soft. On the other side of the coin are people who speak very softly. Just as we don't want to listen to a person who shouts, we also don't listen to people who speak too softly. Speaking softly comes across as lacking confidence and it will not help you deliver your messages with a very effective way. Number three, mumbling. Mumbling may be part of being soft spoken, or it could also be a confidence issue. If people keep asking you to repeat yourself because of your mumbling, this will become very frustrating. It will detract from presenting clear, confident messages. 4. Sounding uncertain. Nerves may be to be blamed if your voice sounds shaky or hesitant, or it could be that you are not sure of your message. If you sound uncertain, how can you expect other people to have confidence in what you are saying? Questioning tone. Uncertain people sometimes raise their voice at the end of each sentence as if asking a question all the time. Descending tone. One to be avoided at all costs is that I am better than you tone in your voice. A condescending tone will very quickly get the other person back up and do nothing for developing relationships. Number 7, bluntness. If situation happen in life, it's unfortunate, but it's true. When associated emotions are reflected in your message, however, it can sound much worse than you intended. For example, frustration can sound like an angry accusation. Directness can be received as rudeness, and people may take offense. Offended people stop listening. The key to getting your vocal expression right is to learn how to manage your emotions and be sincere. People will find what you say worth listening to, and they will see you in a very positive light. Facial clarity. Practically impossible for a human to produce a happy sound without putting on a happy face, or to sound angry without looking angry. When we try to sound neutral, our faces also go blank. As a result, our facial expression play a big role in delivering our meaning and can also kill our meaning completely. Okay, so now you have worked on organizing your message. You have considered it from your listener's point of view. You have chosen the right tone and you have sorted out your face. Are you done? No, sorry. Speaking is an activity that is most effective with not only your face but also your body support your message. Body language and facial expression both support the words. If your objective is to gain people's trust and be convincing, make sure that your body language isn't the enemy of your words. Body language bloopers. You want your posture, gesture, and facial expression to support your message and help you appear confident and relaxed. There are certain behaviors that will not work in your favor, however, take care of it. Number one, slouching. Some big comfortable chairs are very easy to slouch in. You just want to lean back and relax. When you do this, the danger is looking too relaxed and informal. People might not take you seriously, and just as importantly, might not think you take them seriously either. Just as your mother taught you at the dining table, it's best to sit up and stand up straight if you want to come across as an assertive, confident communicator. Number two, distracting habits. Do you twist your hair or play with your rings? Do you click your pen continuously? Such distraction will ensure the listener is paying attention to your habits and forming judgment about them instead of concentrating on your message. Number three, invading space. Have you ever been in conversation with someone who keeps getting close and closer, too close for comfort and often quite loud too? You end up leaning away from them and feeling very uncomfortable. There is no hard and fast rule as far as safe space is concerned, but no one feels comfortable when the other person is insensitive to personal space. 4. Hovering. It's uncomfortable to talk to someone who is standing over you while you are sit. For maximum comfort, try to be on the same physical level, especially if the conversation is more than a couple of minutes long. If both people are seated, there will be little disparity between levels, no matter how tall or short each person is. Number 5, blank looks. When you are trying to convey an important message, it won't help you at all. Blank looks make you appear indifferent. Others will soon feel that way too. Put some expression in your face when you pass on as well as when you receive a message. Number 6, harsh looks. It's never nice to talk to people who are frowning with their eyebrows all furrowed. They look rather unappealing and unapproachable. Expressions also have a tendency to make the speaker's tone of voice rather sharp. Be aware of what your face is doing when you communicate. Threatening gestures. Finger pointed and fist pounding are very strong messages and come across as aggressive and intimidating. This is not the sort of things to do if you want to be known as a relaxed, positive, confident communicator. So, the golden rule is my face and body are important tools in my communication toolbox. I must use them to help me come across as a confident, relaxed communicator. And just as with your tone of voice and facial expression, the first step to developing helpful body language is to develop an awareness of how we use your body when you are communicating. As you go through your day, ask yourself questions like this. Am I slouching? Does this project a lack of confidence? Do I fiddle with my rings during conversation? Might people think my mind is not focused on what they are saying? Do I turn my body at an angle when people approach me, or do I open my body to them? Which way is more welcoming? Do I keep my head tilted back and look down my nose when I am speaking? What might this mean to the listeners? And how often do I point an index finger at the other person's chest? Could this feel aggressive? I'm not saying that's too wrong to do any of these things. This can easily be times when you actually will want to use such behavior in your communication. What we are saying, however, is that it's best for you to choose your body language rather than let your body choose for you. You may, in fact, be very distracted or irritated in a conversation Want to fiddle with your ink, but before you go ahead and do so, ask yourself if this will serve the bigger purpose of getting the communication right and keeping emotion from calling the shots. Once you are aware of how your body has been behaving while you weren't paying attention, you can start making minor adjustments that will lead you to a big improvement in communication for you. About the body language other people are using around you and consider which positions and actions you appreciate when they are used with them. Then you can do the same with others. Because we learn to speak by imitation, we can improve the way we speak by imitating others until we found something work best. As you can see, we have a wonderful variety of tools at your disposal, both for giving and receiving messages. Ensuring you use as many of these tools as possible, improving as you go along, will pave the road to greater understanding and better relationships at work, both of which are essential for success. So, I will summarize some tips for using the right tone and body language. Number one, pronunciation differs greatly not only between countries but also within them, so clear articulation helps. Number two, don't weaken your message by using the right words but the wrong tone. Your tone often determines whether your listeners are open to you or closed. Number three, make sure your face matches your words. People will look into your eyes to see how honest are you. Number four, be sincere when speaking and people will find you worth listening to. Number five, be aware of what your body is saying when you speak. Your posture is very often determined by your emotional state. Number six, be aware of body language bloopers, which will work against you in passing on your message. Number seven, wait a while before speaking if you are highly emotional about an issue. Number eight, evaluate your vocal clarity and make appropriate adjustments. Number nine, remember the key steps to increase effectiveness. Slow down, use simple language, and check for understanding. And finally, follow up important conversation by sending an email that restates the conclusion drawn. So that's enough for today, and we will continue later, inshallah. Have a nice day. Stay safe.